Have you ever wondered, how does a healthy person approach boredom? Because if we're honest, life has a lot of boring moments. This is why we turn on the TV to watch other people's lives sometimes, because we're bored. We need to be entertained. And before we had these smart devices that we could take with us, it was almost a little bit more natural or easier for us to cope with those down, unstimulated moments of life, if that makes sense. Like when your oil was getting changed, you would look at a magazine or you would watch the TV in the office, or you would just kind of sit in silence. And nowadays, we just have constant simulation. So I started wondering, how did Jesus deal with boredom? Now, maybe you're like me, and when you were a kid, you'd go to your mom and you'd be like, Mom, I'm bored. And your mom would say, Oh, go entertain yourself, go find something to do. And it got me thinking, first off, what really is boredom? Why are we so about it? And again, what's the Jesus way of dealing with boredom? So let's dive into this. First, let's get on the same page. What is boredom really? Well, boredom is a signal. It's not a sin. It's actually the soul's cry for meaning, connection, or movement. But if you weren't taught how to respond to that cry in a healthy way, your brain defaults to seeing boredom as a problem, as something you have to escape. And then the spirit of escapism can take over. So you might struggle with addiction or just doing unhealthy things during this boring time, like overeating, drinking too much, using drugs, going over to a guy or girl's house that you really have no business going over to, right? Like participating in unhealthy relationships and so much more. But we're not going to talk about the spirit of escapism today. We're going to talk just strictly on boredom. So if you've learned that boredom is a problem, then sometimes we see it as boredom is unsafe. That's how your limbic system will code it. And then you had to learn to stimulate, not to sit, because you wanted to avoid it, because for some reason, boredom felt, well, just boring and not fun for you. But here's the reality. Jesus didn't escape boredom. He entered it and he turned it into communion. Isn't that awesome? I want to share three healthy ways to see boredom. So this is how a healthy mind would approach boredom. First, it would be a space to listen, not something to fix. It's very easy to go, oh, I'm bored. I must fix it. I must do something, right? And again, we're human beings, we're not human doings. While we also need to do and be equally, sometimes we're overdoing and not being. Likewise, we can be being too much and not doing. So it's going to be a little bit of a balancing act depending on where you are. Number two, it's a doorway to creativity or rest, not a pit to run from. But if you have the spirit of performance, rest is really uncomfortable, right? You might feel with false guilt or shame or just restlessness, and you don't know really how to enter into that rest. And mentally, you're just beating yourself up the entire time you're quote unquote resting. So you're not really resting. And then three, it's a chance to be, not always do, as I said with point one. You have to learn how to let the silence speak, because these moments of boredom actually will stretch you and your faith if you allow them to. Sometimes you have to retrain your nervous system, because if your entire life has been chaos and drama, your nervous system can kind of be addicted to that adrenaline and that cortisol rush. And so then when your life becomes boring, you have to get kind of re-familiar with it. You have to re-normalize what boredom is and start to see it and label it as safe consciously, because unconsciously your brain is going, this ain't safe. But the key is we don't want to panic when there's no task, no thrill, or no hit. This is part of life. Life has a lot of boring down moments, and social media is going to cause you not to believe that, and especially the movies on television. So, how did Jesus respond to boring or still moments? Jesus had entire days of walking, waiting, or even being alone, and he did not fill them with distraction. He never said, I'm bored. What should I do? Right? Isn't that pretty cool when you think about it? And he probably had these moments of boredom as that we're talking about, but he viewed boredom much more differently than those who dislike or want to avoid boredom because they want to constantly be stimulated. So let's look at some verses. Luke 5:16 says, But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. Now, the Greek for lonely here means desolate or deserted. These are places where nothing is going on. So no stimulation, no action. But to Jesus, that was where everything happened, because his Father was there and it was about him reconnecting, if you will, back to his father in that private time for him. There's also the wilderness in Luke 4. It's also in Matthew 4. And this is 40 days, no people, no movement, no scrolling. It is just the spirit, right? And a lot of spiritual warfare. So maybe it's not as boring with all the spiritual warfare, but nonetheless, just walk with me. We know that the enemy tried to tempt Jesus to perform, to prove, to stimulate, but Jesus said no. He chose word over worldly stimulation. And maybe God is using these boring moments for you to show you that, hey, you can use the word in these moments. You could grow closer to me, my child. Just putting it out there. I'm going to encourage you to pray. And then we have the Garden of Gethsemane. Jesus sat, he waited, he grieved. The disciples got bored and they fell asleep, right? Now, we could also say maybe they were exhausted, maybe they were tired, but Jesus stayed awake in the stillness. So let's look at this then. What happened to you? Let's kind of think about this. What happened to you to go, oof, I don't like being bored. It just feels uncomfortable. I dislike it. And maybe you need to prayerfully sit with the Lord and ask God, why do I not like boredom, God? How do I see boredom, God? And how do you see boredom? Those are some really powerful questions you could journal about. But if you're like me and your mom or your dad or your caregiver said, go entertain yourself, well, depending on when you were constantly told this, your brain can metabolize those words as your needs are your problem, or your desire for connection must be managed alone. And this is why we really got to drill down on, what's going on inside of you? What are you yearning for when you say you're bored? Are you feeling lonely? Do you want connection? Do you want to move? Like, what is it that your body is craving? And this takes self-awareness. This takes really becoming aware of what you're even thinking about. And I have an awesome course called Journaling with God that really helps you grow your self-awareness and partner with God about these moments of life instead of just venting or getting frustrating, but really starting to dig and find the roots. You might also have the equation that if you have to entertain yourself because you're bored, your brain could process that into hearing your longing for engagement isn't valid unless you can handle it, right? So this taught your brain that boredom equals I'm too much or not enough, or it's all on me. Now, this isn't the only way your brain could have processed what boredom means. We're just really focusing on if your parent or caregiver said, go entertain yourself. And this isn't a bad thing. Children have to learn how to entertain themselves. But at the same time, parents need to be mindful to not be so quick to just go say, hey, it's your problem. It's not mine, right? So this is how we want to renew the response to boredom. I'm going to give you 3 steps on how to reframe and just really renew your mind when it comes to boredom. Number 1, we've got to reframe boredom as an invitation, not something to dread, not something to hate, but an invitation. So instead of saying, I'm bored, which maybe this could just be a trigger for you to go to, something in me is stirring. And then ask, what is it asking for? Is it asking for rest, movement, intimacy, expression, worship, creativity? What is it that you're wanting to do? And sometimes at this stage, you're going to need to be quiet and really listen to what your body is saying. Ask for the Holy Spirit's help. This is really going to depend on where your self-awareness is, and everyone's different with their self-awareness. The second thing you want to do is ask God what to do with it. Say, Father, I feel bored. What's this moment really about for me? Holy Spirit, what's stirring under the surface? And these are great things to pray about because then you can start to process. Number 3, create a boredom liturgy. Just like when you brush your teeth daily, make a short ritual that turns boredom into restoration. For example, maybe you step outside and you take a few deep breaths, no phone, and you just ask God one question. And maybe you sit underneath the sun, listening to the birds, just waiting for God to respond to that question. Or maybe you write one sentence in your prayer journal and you say, Jesus, what do you want me to notice about this boredom? Or maybe you put your hand on your chest and you say, I don't need to be filled by the world. I'm full of Christ. It is okay to be in this stillness. Or maybe you do something off that to-do list, that long to-do list of home projects or computer projects that you're really avoiding because it's dull, it's not stimulating, aka it's boring, but it would really also help you be more organized. Nonetheless, there's something that you could be doing or kind of lean into being, if that makes sense. And this is where we just want to reflect and really ask God, hey, what's going on? But here's the thing, you're not just learning how to handle boredom, you're learning to stay in the moment without fear. A lot of people equate being bored with feeling unsafe and needing to escape. But the more you can confront, oh, I'm bored, I don't feel like there's anything I can do, that's a awesome opportunity for you to start digging deeper with the Lord and the Holy Spirit, which will also allow you to grow your self-awareness. You have to start breaking the agreement that says, if nothing's happening, I have no value, or if nothing's happening, I'm failing. It might be different depending on your past experiences. But nonetheless, whatever your dislike for boredom is, it's most likely a lie from hell, and Jesus wants to break it for you. Now, if you're really ready to start to grow your self awareness and partner with God and turn your journal into a sacred meeting place with the Lord, then I'm going to encourage you to prayerfully consider enrolling in Journaling with God. This is a self-paced lifetime access course that really teaches you how to journal. So if you don't know how to journal and you want to learn how to journal, this is an excellent course. Or if you've been journaling for years, it'll also help you improve your journaling game. Consider asking the Lord if this would be the right step for you. I'd rather you be obedient than anything else. But if you got any takeaways from this, let me know in the comments below. And I am praying for you. God bless.